Hi there. Welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White. I'm the founder and CEO of the Bobby White Foundation, and I'm here along with my co-host.
Good morning. I'm Bonnie Snyder.
Welcome back. It seems weird. This is only our second week back from our
I
vacation.
know. I know. Yeah, it's really nice being back in the studio. Yeah, that hiatus was, but it was nice, but it was weird.
It was.
It was weird not being.
Well, when you do this every week for, what do we do, like 35 weeks in a row? Yeah, it was. But it's nice to be back, and there's so much going on. Fall in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the pandemic, some things are still starting to happen again. Not as much as normal, but it is starting to happen. But first, want to thank John and Rob from WeBeam TV. Without them, we wouldn't be here. So to us, it's very important to thank them. And you can help support us, though, by going to our Kindest webpage to donate. I think, Rob, do we still have that QR code somewhere? But anyway, that's the page. He'll put up a QR code, and you can donate. There you go, right there in the right bottom corner. You can donate any amount, whatever. We've got a whole bunch of amounts listed, but way at the bottom, you can put in whatever you feel comfortable, and just to help support the show so that we can, bring this information to you and get people more comfortable talking openly about suicide and loss, being a lost survivor, and grief, and all the stuff that encompasses this complicated thing.
When speaking of like getting information out and everything, of course you and I know, but we sent the purple folders to Missouri, to Kira. As you guys may remember from an earlier episode, that Kira's a nurse, and her agency has been giving out these purple folders left and right. And she called us, she called last week and said, hey, I need some more folders. And so, but with it, it was, of course, the resources that we have in are for us for here for Florida, and she's like, hey, can we put some resources in from Missouri? Because, let's be real, a Florida, resource is not going to do well for somebody in Missouri, but I think it's important, to highlight that this purple folder campaign is not just a Florida thing. Suicide and suicide awareness is not just a Florida thing. It is, nationwide. And, your support of the show not only helps, well, the show, it also helps, the foundation provide this information to other people because it's applicable regardless to where you are. But there is a cost involved to print out a resource list for that particular state. And so, it's an amazing information, that's in this folder. Tammy put a lot of work, blood, sweat, and tears into this folder, and, to hear, to get a phone call, hey, I run, it's like, it's bittersweet. It's like it's sad on one side, yet on the other side, it's like, I'm really glad that this information is to say, I've run out of the folders that you've given me. I need more, and hearing I need more highlights just how, the proportion that this epidemic is in. Yet, I'm glad the information is getting out.
Yeah, it's, and we have sent these purple folders all across the country. We've sent them to the Northeast. We've sent them out to Washington State. And granted, there's a lot of resources at our Pasco County, but there are still a lot of resources in the folder that can be used nationwide.
Yeah, they're national.
Like you know, NAMI has, you know, we have NAMI Pasco, but you have NAMI, the overall, and all that information's in there. So, and we are going to hopefully be working on, and there's only like a couple things to change in there that we can make the folder specific to a certain area. And that's going to be pretty much a pretty easy change, so that other areas that want them or need them, and, you know, hopefully, you know, we can grow the program. It's been great for Pasco. I mean, there's still a lot of people that aren't aware that we're here, and then when they find out, it's like, oh my gosh, you know. So, and that's what some of these events that we're going to be doing here coming up here shortly during the month of October, to bring more awareness. And it is other agencies, you know, everybody kind of getting involved. Like we said, this is not something one organization can handle, whether it be, you know, talking about it, reducing the stigma, helpful resources, anything. We can't do it alone. Another agency can't do it alone. It takes all of us together to do it.
It's, you know, it's what we, you know, typically term in our line of work, you know, that wraparound
Right.
stuff. It's, you know, it's totally
Exactly.
wraparound. You know, as we're talking about, you know, ways to support and whatnot. I mean, if you guys notice,
Yeah, she's
the shirt
wearing
today.
on our Zoom meeting this morning before we came here. I saw that you had that. I'm like, she's wearing her T-shirt today, and I'd
Exactly.
already had my clothes on for today, and I was
Yeah,
like,
you know, so this is another way, you know, to support, you know, purchasing the T-shirt. You know, I'm wearing the crew neck today. I have the V-neck as well. This is the first one I just happened to put my hands on. Was the crew. It's like, oh, and there's my T-shirt. It's the crew neck. But you know, yeah, guys. I mean, it's a you know, it's a very comfortable shirt. You know, 'cause I like T-shirts. Who doesn't like T-shirts?
I am totally a T-shirt person, and I probably wear my T-shirt. I have I think I purchased 3 of them. I support my foundation pretty well, so I have 3 of them. So I'm wearing them 3 or 4 times a week. You know,
You know, it's funny when you're talking about you supporting the foundation, and it's like I look at this, you know, semi going back and forth, because do you guys remember when we had that painting, Hope Rains Down, in the studio, and I was looking at this painting, you know, just kind of eyeballing it. It's like, I love the colors on it. Like, somebody better get a bid on it, because if you don't, it's going to end up in my living room. And, you know, it's kind of back and forth. Well, guys, that painting is hanging in my living room right now. Or, you know, about to be, you know, I have the perfect spot in the living room, like it's sitting on the piano right now. So when you walk in, you see it.
Can you tell, when the light changes, how the painting changes?
You know, I haven't, you know, where it's, you know, my piano sits in a corner of the house. It doesn't get a lot of light. And so I haven't experienced that yet. For me, it's just the experience of the painting itself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my grandson, you know, Devin, you know, Patrick's little boy, or Patrick's big boy, you know, he came in and, you know, he saw the painting, you know, it was still in its plastic. And I was like, Nana, what is that? And I was like, oh, you know, that's a painting, you know, and I explained to him where the painting came from. And, you know, I put it on, you know, like, so when I took it out of the plastic, it was like I didn't want it to, sweat inside the plastic. So I have it sitting on the piano, and he's looking at it. And just listening to him, you know, talk about the colors in it and everything like that. And he immediately was like, where's it going to go? And, you know, I think I told you that, you know, on the pot shelf in my living room where Patrick's urn and, you know, other, you know, what I call Patrick stuff is there's a picture that was, you know, it was a poster. It was one of Patrick's favorite poster, but it's a wave, you know, like an ocean wave. Mm-hmm. And the colors, you know, in it and how this picture looks very similar to the painting, the Hope Rains Down painting. And like for me, the symbolism between, for the wave, has to do with a friend of mine. I think you know him too, Art. He's retired Pasco County
Yeah,
Sheriff.
yeah, I know.
Okay,
who
so
you're
you know
talking about.
Art.
Yeah.
Art's, had a loss as well. His, the love of his life, passed away several years ago. But to me, the symbolism of that wave, behind Patrick's urn, and then this painting, I want to make sure I get the quote right. That said, "When life sends you a bunch of waves, you have to learn how to surf, or it's important that you learn how to surf." And I find whenever I am feeling, like blue, or I'm in one of those funk moments. I think about that. So I'm looking up at this picture and I'm looking at the wave, and it's that gentle reminder.
Right.
Just learn how to surf. Just learn how to surf. So Hope Rains Down, being next to it, is like, just learn how to surf. I'm surfing now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, like
You have to take a picture when you get it.
I will.
Put in your spot.
But yeah, I was touched that Devin was like, made the connection between the two pictures, and I'm looking at him like,
that's interesting.
Yes. Yes.
Wow, that's cool. That's neat. That's neat. It is a special.
Well, speaking of artwork, and I'm thinking, when we do the art, painting with a twist.
Painting with a twist.
I'm looking. It's like, okay, Hope Rains Down is going to be on this side. My painting with a twist picture is going on the other side.
Well, it's actually painting with a purpose.
With a purpose.
Painting with a purpose, and anybody can join that fundraiser. It's going to be October 21st here locally, and we're going to have 2 locations: the Painting with a Twist location in Trinity, and then also John volunteered the TV studio as a second location for local people.
John was probably voluntold.
Well, the thing is he'll volunteer, and then if you don't follow up on it, it just kind of goes away. So I think it was, I don't know, it could have been last week or the week before, just before we were getting ready to tape, and I'm like, "Oh, John, remember you volunteered the studio?" And he's like, so there's different ways that you can sign up on the website for Painting with a Twist. You go to Painting with a Twist Trinity and go to their events page. And the easiest way to get to it is to click on the calendar and scroll down to October.
Right, and here's where the confusion is, because the site is Painting with a Twist,
Right.
but the event is Painting with a Purpose.
Painting with a Purpose, right. That's their fundraiser part of Painting with a Twist. So, but if you don't even live here locally, you can still participate. And we have 3 different links. And one of them, in the image on the date on the calendar, it says like ship. So you go in there and you sign up for that, and the password is Art for Hope, all ran together, and you pay them for the kit, which is $48, and then you contact the foundation, and we'll probably have to just go through PayPal and pay the shipping, which is $13.65, I think, something like that. And I'll go pick up the kit and ship it out to you, so you'll have it in plenty of time. And you can either participate. I think they do it via Zoom. I don't know exactly which platform. I hope it's that, because it seems to be the easiest one. And you can participate with us at that time. But the image that we picked out, the neon dragonfly, comes with a video. So, and even locally, if you want to participate and you can't be at either studios, you can do it whenever you want at your leisure, and so you're still helping us with the fundraiser. And the significance of the neon dragonfly is, for a lot of people, it's, you know, the spiritual being of your loved one that you lost, kind of like the cardinal is. And then it also, oh, I should have wrote this down. It also means hope, love, and change. So we thought that was pretty apropos for what we're doing here. And two, it was one of the easier ones. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and we want to encourage people that even if you don't participate in either of our studios, that get a group of friends together at your house and a couple bottles of wine or whatever you want to drink, or soda water, and have a little group get together. Actually, one of our friends is going to be doing that here locally, and so you can make it a fun event, and you end up with a really cool piece of artwork of your own.
I mean, even if you don't keep the artwork yourself, it makes a nice gift.
Makes
to
a nice
someone.
gift. Yeah, Christmas is coming up, so and it's a pretty cool image. So.
No, I love the image when I looking at the images that we were choosing from. For me, I like the dragonfly. It just coincidentally, when I'm looking at the image, I had just that weekend, prior to that Monday meeting, was doing some work in the garage, and this huge dragonfly flies into the garage and lands on the handle to the mower. I think we talked about that before, and of course, when I saw the dragonfly, I was like, "Is this coincidence or what?" And like, my vote was, let's do the dragonfly. So I was pretty stoked when it was like, we're doing that.
The vote was pretty close, but there was a big push for the dragonfly.
Well, and I think too for us non-artists type, like when I'm working with my children, oftentimes I'm on a whiteboard and I'm drawing things. Like, all right, so we're gonna what about this? And every time I get ready to draw an image on the board, whether I'm working with children or adults, if I use my adult group, for example, we talk about developmental processes, and I draw this tree, and I was like, okay, I want you to see things start at the roots and everything. Well, as I'm getting ready to draw, I will turn around, and I was like, and for the record, I'm not an artist, And they're like, okay, and like I drew this. To me it was a tree, and one of the participants was like, that looks like broccoli. And of course I'm like, wow, a broccoli little tree. And I laugh at myself because no, I'm not an artist by any stretch of the imagination. I used to be able to draw, but I can't now. But it's not about having artistic ability. It is about creating something that I like to say, I'm the next Van Gogh. It's abstract. This is strictly abstract. But yeah, you're supporting the cause, and I think that's to me the greater importance. And let's face it, if you don't, if you gift it to somebody, what better gift to give someone than something that was unique, handmade, one of a kind.
By you,
right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did a painting with a twist with some friends. It was several months after Bobby passed away. Another friend of ours had passed away from cancer, and so a bunch of girls got together and went, and we did a Christmas theme one. And it was like, a couple of us, we were the widows, and but we ended up having a lot of fun. We really did. And when you get a bunch of people together for something like this, it ends up being, a lot of fun. And Margie, I don't know if you were you on the Zoom call the other night when Margie said that she wanted to be at the group that was going to be the most fun?
The foundation meeting?
Yeah, with the Monday night Zoom call.
You know where I was Monday.
Oh, that's right.
You know where
Yeah,
I was
okay.
Monday. I wasn't.
So anyway, so I was going through doing a shared screen to show everybody how you get to the page and how you sign up. And so Margie was signing up so that we saw how everything worked. And she's like, so Delynn and you are going to be running the one here at the studio. So Margie's like, well, I want to be where the most fun is going to be. And so Delynn was like, well, the studio, of course, is going to be the most fun. She goes, okay, I'm going to sign up for the studio because that's where the most fun is going to be. It was so funny. So we worked out going through the process, which was really good because, none of us had ever done that before. And Painting with a Twist has been, Trinity has really gone out of their way to help us out with the formatting because, number one, COVID, plus we wanted, family and friends that didn't live here, to be able to participate if they wanted to also. So they've really done a really great job for us. So that's getting exciting. So, but we have other events too coming up that the foundation is going to be at and in support of other organizations. And actually, Kim from 9 Round, she's going to be down at the event, and I get the harbors mixed up, Palm Harbor or Safety Harbor, on the 2nd of October. And I'm just going to go down and kind of support her. She'll have some of our stuff on the table. And but October 16th is a huge day because we have 2 events going on the same day. And so let's see, the first one, and you're gonna be there to help me with this one, right?
I will actually be there in a dual capacity because I'm obviously supporting the foundation, but the agency that I work for,
they're going to be there.
They're going to be there as well, and so I am, their support. Like, I'll be wearing 2 hats, the foundation and the agency that I work for.
Well, the first one, and this is an early morning one. It's out in Dade City, Florida, and it's Pasco County Parks and Rec is putting it on. Last week we had Kim on from Pasco County, and it was great having her on. We're going to have her and Diana, I think is the other gal.
See, I know Unique, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna get both of them back on because Diana, I believe that's her name. She's also a veteran, and so we're gonna get them back on prior to this event and kind of check in and see how things are going. But it's Stomp Out Suicide, a 5K and a 1-mile trail race walk out at Withlacoochee River Park. And it begins at 8 o'clock. That QR code on the bottom of that flyer will take you to their Facebook page. And I think you can sign up on there if you want to do the run. And they're going to have, a family fun zone, stress release activities, food trucks, vendors, us, raffles, music, and more. And I think this event is from 8 until noon. So we're going to be out there that morning for them to help support them.
And if you've never been to Withlacoochee River Park before, it is an amazing venue to have an event like this at. I've gone to, they have done, it was called a Family Fishing Day, where, was different focus. But it's been out there, they were giving families fishing poles and whatnot. And, it was like this huge area that had, again, the food trucks and the vendors, and then the families would get their fishing pole and go out and fish for the day. It kind of a way to promote, family bonding, which is one of the things that I like and enjoy about Parks and Recreation, and I'm more familiar with the Dade City side of the house because I do more with Kim and the Dade City Rec Department than I do on, on the west side, and I live on the west side.
Oh,
Um,
I've lived here for 30 years and I've never been to this park.
you will love it. It's an amazing venue. I think it's important, when, as Kim pointed out, when we had her here, and the theme of this, recreate your mind, because what I feel, and many of us feel, that oftentimes, people are in, get in these funks or whatnot, is because they feel, complacent, bored, nothing, fun to occupy their mind. And, having something like this where you're out enjoying nature, it's peaceful. I know for me, I get my best peaceful moments when, I'm in one of the parks, walking the nature trail. Or if I'm on, one of the, in one of the parks, in my kayak, or, sometimes, going and taking, the children to play in the park, just hearing kids' laughters and whatnot. But yeah, this is a very serene, peaceful location. It's big. It's huge. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, this is their first one, and I think that it's going to be really awesome, and they really want to start making this an annual event. And, we were talking about partnering with them to add events, not only have something just once a year.
Right.
And bring something also to the west side of Pasco. Although the west side of Pasco gets a lot of attention where the east side hardly does. But
I have to, and this is, again, it might be a little bit of bias showing here, but when I look in terms of, Parks and Rec and, these kind of events, when Kim and, her cohorts put together an event, the event is epic. Like Juneteenth, I looked at, what she talked about here. The event that was out there was, it was amazing. And, I don't think we did anything over here on the west side, or, if there was, it was eclipsed by the east.
By the east side.
Yeah.
I don't recall hearing anything, and if it was, it wasn't. From what I've heard, what happened on.
And in past years, I had done, the west side, Juneteenth celebration, But again, when we talk about it, even though, something like Juneteenth, using that as an example, where, well, how does that relate to what we're doing in terms of, suicide awareness, and stomping out, it's when you sit back and think about it, we are stomping out the stigma. We are drawing attention to these, events, these, causes, these, what's the word I want to use? Potential issues that for some people is huge, and, impacts them, on a, in some cases it's a superficial level, in other, instances it hits, hits really deep. And so the idea of, again, promoting, awareness, promoting a unity, promoting, something that, I'm going to the park to do a 5K run, but what's planted in your mind is, but this 5K run was to address suicide. I'm going to the park to support this cause, but, or I'm, going to go hang out, eat some good food, listen to some good music. But the reason I was there, or that event was happening, because it was bringing awareness to this thing. And this is what I love about, events, doing, supporting events like this, taking part in events like this, and, attending events like this.
Well, and on the same note, later that same day is 2021 red, white, and back the blue. And that event starts at 2 o'clock. So when I get done over on the other side of the county, I'm coming back over to this side of the county. And some of our other members on our committee will be setting up at this event, at least until I can get there. And we'll have some committee members rotating, and because that event's going to be a long one. That one's from 2 o'clock until 10 o'clock, and there's going to be, same thing, music, food. There's going to be a kids play zone, and I think it starts around 6:30. We have 3 bands, 2 bands and a guy, and one of them is the Bearded Brothers, which they're really popular here. And I was going to write it down. I will have it for next week. The names of the other 2.
I don't know why I was thinking the Black Honkies was one.
The Bearded Brothers, and then I think it's don't quote me on it. It's like a Journey band thing.
Kind of like they do Journey covers.
Yeah. Now, I'm not totally sure, but Maria said that they are really, really good too. So, and then there's another guy. So I'll have that information for sure next week. I'm
looking at with that one, if they have, those of us who follow the Bearded Brothers, we affectionately call them the Beards. Like when my friends, I have some friends who are related to the band members. Mm-hmm. And, they're like, hey, we're going to go see the Beards tonight. Do you want to go? I was like, of course I want to go. And so, having that local talent, especially a local talent that is hugely and wildly popular, I'm looking forward to that event as well.
Yeah. So, and, we're there to support, first responders, high rates of suicide in law enforcement, paramedics, all that. And actually, I have a nephew who is a police officer in Texas, and he just got promoted to the SWAT team.
Nice. Well, the other thing, too, when you think of, backing the blue, and whatnot, is I feel first responders, and I think many people will, feel like, as I do with this. First responders, it's like this dual thing with them. There's a high rate, of suicide and stress and trauma and, mental health related things with them, by the nature of what they do. Mm-hmm. At the same time, they are the ones that are responding to when these things happen. And I sit back when I think about, those who responded to, if I use Aiden for an example, or, Aiden for, the, detective that had to come and, rope off the scene and investigate, the death of this child. Mm-hmm. He's a baby. He's 14. He's a baby.
Right.
I think about what the, paramedic who had to pronounce him, what they must have been going through too. I have to be the one to tell this parent, your child is gone. And of course, they knew,
right.
Kira knew he was gone. And on down the line, everybody that, on the professional side of the house that responded to, Aiden, taking his own life. Not saying that it made it any different when, the same people had to come and respond to Patrick's death or Bobby's death.
I remember when Bobby died, and I vividly, even to this day, remember actually the first responder to my house was Sheriff Noco. And I remember him coming running in between the house and the cottage and sliding in. And then the officer who wanted to help me afterwards. yeah, and just all the people, all the first responders that are involved. I mean, you couldn't even. It was hard to get through our neighborhood in front of our house that day, but and our nephew, he was a Pasco County sheriff for 7 years, and he actually had worked with some of the people that came to our home that day that Bobby died, and so that's that's why I feel that it's important for us to be there too, but and it's going to be. It's actually going to be a fun event. It's going to be a really super long day for us, but I think maybe we'll get a second wind when the bands come on, But they're going to have raffles too. Actually, I have a basket that I need to call Lisa and have her pick up, so that they'll have raffles and all sorts of stuff going on. And it's going to be at Gill Dogs, which is a really popular venue and a really great place down by the water to have this event. And we just got a little taste of cool weather this morning, I think. So by October 16th, hopefully.
Let's hope it is, it is nice, it is not sweltering hot.
Yeah.
'Cause we've been to those sweltering hot events before.
Oh, yeah. But I think I think both of these events on that day are going to be really awesome events. And I'm happy. I'm just grateful that I have a awesome, big enough committee that we can cover 2 events in one day, and it'll be the first time that we've done that too, 2 events in one day. So, so we got that. We're also working on doing a live art auction in November. We've got our new website up. That was one thing we've been working on, and finally got published this week. I'm really happy with that, and I really have to thank John, our producer, because he's the one who really did most of the work. And so there's a page on there for the show where you can click on, I think it says Hope TV on the left. It's on the very last one, and there's a little block with the video. There it is. And if you click like on the main video in like the upper right hand corner or something, I'm not saying it right, but it's kind of like a screen comes over that video and it shows all our shows, and you can just click on it right from there and it'll take you right to all of our previous shows. It was really cool. I was like, oh man, this works out really awesome. So yeah, that's the shot there. So it makes it easier for you to find all our previous shows instead of just going to YouTube and typing in and trying to find them. Because I notice that when you do that, they intermingle other things in between our shows. So this makes it real easy, and it's all in order.
Gotcha.
And then there's a Art for Hope page, which still has the information from last year on it, but in the next few days we'll have that changed to this year's information, and we'll be adding art images. Some of them will be just for sale at a flat rate. Some of them will be previews for the live auction in November. And so you want to check back quite often, because that page could change like on a daily basis. And we're going to start bringing in artwork too, decorate our studio with some artwork.
That'd be nice.
So,
That'd be nice.
yeah, so we got a lot going on this fall. So,
and you guys thought we were just, had our feet up at the beach, while we were on that little hiatus.
No, it didn't work that way.
We were still, plugging along, doing what we needed to do.
So yeah, it's all good. It's all good. I'm getting a lot of awesome feedback from the community. So that's what we're doing. So anyway, so what else do you got, Bonnie?
When we think about this, this epidemic, we were talking about Monday, why wasn't I here? Suicide, suicide ideation, suicide attempts, it does not, we've talked about this over and over again, it doesn't discriminate, it doesn't, it's not a certain, SES, a certain, or SES, I'm using acronyms, socioeconomic status, it doesn't matter how much money you have in the bank.
No,
it
it does
doesn't
not
matter,
discriminate.
Right. It doesn't matter what your skin
Period.
tone is. It doesn't matter what your job is. It doesn't matter what part of the country is. Suicide awareness affects everybody. And this week has been, I don't know if I want to, I want to call it like challenging, but going into complete work mode and dealing with a incident that involved an 11-year-old, and so people are like, oh, they're just upset and they're just saying this because they're angry, or they're just saying this because there's they have a problem with the rules, or they're just saying this because it's attention seeking, or they're, and we hear that a lot when people will, again, I'm going back, to a degree, regardless of age, when someone makes a comment that they are, suicidal, I should just, this is why I want to kill myself, or I should just kill myself. And, for me, I took pause for a moment, and when I heard it, I looked at this child and I'm like, what? And not like, are you joking me? Did you really just say this? It's important, that, we, go into, tell me more about this. What's going on? I try to for me personally, I try to stay away from the, do you really mean that? Where it's more of a, well, do you have a plan? What? And then, hearing this child tell me, well, I've tried a couple of times before and this is what I did. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this. So of course, for me, I'm a mandated reporter.
Right.
Like, oh, I've got to deal with, this.
Well, actually, in Florida, everybody is.
Tammy, I'm going to push back on that. Okay, anybody can step in and intercede in a suicide. Me personally, and people in the field, it is more of a legal thing. And I explain when I'm in classroom with my students, where the law came in as it relates to people in the field, like, you not, saying, to use the term loosely, you as a layperson, not saying anything, like, okay, she didn't say anything, maybe you didn't know, or who do you know? Me not saying anything,
Well, that's
my job.
Yeah,
that's my
no,
job.
that
That's my
is
credential.
different, but still, it's if you see abuse or hear abuse or suicide, any of that, anything like that, technically in the state of Florida, you are mandated to.
Everybody
report.
has a duty to warn.
Right.
And everybody has a duty to warn. Some of us are mandated.
Right.
I think it's, verbalized
Right,
that
it's
way.
a little technical.
It is. Yeah, it is. It is.
thing,
There is
yeah.
a technicality. That being said, I was glad that this child is now, safe and being seen. They're in the hospital right now, mind you. Or in a facility to kind of address what was going on. I think it was nice, however, to, I'm grateful that I was there to intercede in this particular, situation. Like, when we rolled up this morning and I was on the phone, I was, still dealing with the same, the situation, with this child. But yeah, that's, that's kind of what's going on in my world. It doesn't stop. It doesn't, suicide awareness, the stigma, the epidemic, it does not take a day off.
No, it doesn't.
And sometimes when you least expect that you're going to be subjected or involved in, an incident. This one was like completely out of the blue, just happened to be at that, the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and it happens. I happened to go to the committee meeting Saturday for Red, White, and Back to Blue, and the gal who runs it, Lisa, we had spoke several months ago. A child at one of the high schools one of her kids went to had taken his life, and so she came and we got her a purple folder. But the mother has been out of town. She just can't. She's having a really, really difficult time. And so Lisa would just reach out to her, every once in a while, sending hugs, blah, blah, blah. And the woman finally reached out back to her, and Lisa told her that she had the folder, and, when you are ready, we'll get this information to you. And this is months of reaching out. And but that's why we have the folder, so that, and we always say from the very beginning that you may not be ready for it right then, but at least you have something when you are ready. And that could be immediately, and it could be months down the road. It could, it might be a year down the road, but at least you have something.
And I think it's important, when we're dealing with, lost survivors, whoever they are, to meet them where they are emotionally. So as the running joke between the two of us, one time is, who does she think she is telling me I need to wait? To be so honest with you, there are some of us, and I don't want to say I get beat up a lot. And I say that it's a loving beat up.
Right.
My colleagues, will tell me all the time, are you taking care of yourself? Like when, with Patrick, with Aiden, and, other situations, are you taking care of yourself? I remember here recently, one of my team members, have you eaten? And I was like, have I eaten? It's like, I don't have time to eat. Like, I wasn't hungry. And so another team member says, what's going on? Because the child that I was talking about, I have a relationship with, close relationship with. But anyway, like, have you eaten? And I was like, no. I was like, I don't know if I ate. I was like, but a Coke is in my future. I was like, I really need a Coke. And this particular team member, I'm sure she'll be fine with me sharing her name. However, it's anonymity. I want to respect her. But she was like, where are you? Tell me where you are. I'll bring you a Coke. Does this youth? I'll bring a drink for the youth. What to bring? It's like, oh yeah, bring the youth. A Sprite. I just want a Coke. Oh no, she comes in, and I was doing something, and the charge nurse was looking for me. Because mind you, we're in a facility that for the that belongs to the agency that I work for. And so they were like, oh, I was like, no, guys, I'm not leaving. I said, I'm just going out to meet this team. They'd already bought the stuff in. Sandwiches, snacks, and I'm looking at her, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, really, dude, I had, it's like the only thing I wanted was a Coke, and she's like, oh, no. So it was almost like this person, this team, this coworker, now I'm going to be forced to eat.
Right.
And it's like, bought me a sandwich. I have to eat it now because I can't disrespect the fact that, Yeah, Steve bought the sandwich. But, again, it is important that, the supports and whatnot are out there for people, and we meet people where they are emotionally. There are some people who it's like, you might say it's too soon, and we know, in our mind, because of maybe our own experiences, it's too soon. Where somebody else might say, I need to address this right now. I need to talk about this right now. I need to be in the moment to process, understanding that later on, as we've talked about, we'll get back into our
Yeah.
book reviews, that we were doing prior to the break. Again, it is important to understand and continue to highlight the grief cycle works different for everybody.
For everybody.
Where, on the onset, it was like, who is she to tell me I need to wait? But then when I sat back and I processed, it's like, okay, is she meaning this or is she meaning this? And who is she to tell me what I need to do? But then when you look at it, hindsight being 20/20, it's like, okay, sometimes it's okay to jump in with both feet right away. Sometimes it's like tap the brakes a minute, recenter yourself before you dive in with both feet. Because I think it's important that when we are diving in, that we're not diving into the deep end, not realizing that at that moment we've forgotten how to swim. We're diving into this wave of everything that is going on with us, emotionally, whether it is being displayed outwardly or it's kind of rumbling inside, that we're jumping into this ocean, this wave, and we did not learn how to surf.
And you haven't been there before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's well, and like you said, we'll get back into reviewing this book, but where we left off on it was, I think, chapter 8 on disbelief. And that is, you have that from the beginning to who knows how long, going through this. I mean, I still have it, and it's been 5.5 years. There's days that it's like, I can't believe this is where we're at. And yeah, everybody's gonna do it differently. I mean, we've had some people that they wanted the folders right away, and then we have this gal that it's just not there yet. I mean, it's like the epidemic, and like what we say, that no one thing is causing this. It's a crazy scenario all the way around.
And I think what happens, and again, as we get back into the chapter of, disbelief, with the folder, for some people it is, if I accept the folder right away, I am absolutely acknowledging the fact that I have a loss. So if I could push the folder off for a moment, or push the discussion off for a moment, in some ways it is a protective factor that keeps us from becoming too overwhelmed with the rush of emotions that comes along with, you have a loved one, that loved one is gone now, and this is how they were gone. But we'll get back into it. I find that chapter very fast. It's fascinating, because the waves of disbelief happen, whether it is when you first hear it, to 2 years later, 5 years later. There's a group that I belong to. People are like, it's been 18 years, 20 years, 30 years, and I still can't believe that person is gone. So, we're winding down to that last minute.
Here we go again. We always end up doing this too. But so we got you know, it's going to be really busy the next couple months, and we'll, you know, we're definitely going to bring all that stuff to you guys. Like I said, we're gonna inundate our studio, hopefully, with some artwork throughout the next month and a half or so. Being out in the community, and if you're here local, come out and support us, support, you know, our other organizations. I'm going to see if I can get Lisa from Red, White, and Back the Blue on. And there's another guest I want to try and get on for that event. And again, have Kim and I think it's Diana. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Have them back to get an update on this really big event that they're putting on, and they're doing it from the heart. You know, they lost a coworker to suicide in the spring, and so it's, you know, they're taking the bull by the horns. And so we got our numbers up there. Please put the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in your cell phone, and that text to talk 741. Any of these, have these in your phone. You never know when you're going to need them. And when I talk at any events, I give that out. So remember, there's always hope.